Welcome to Experiments in Happiness with Michelle Lemus, the podcast for high achieving women who've checked all the boxes but still feel something's missing.
There's a version of you that I want to talk about today, and she doesn't usually get a thank you. She doesn't get named in success stories. She doesn't get acknowledged in growth conversations. She rarely gets honored when we talk about becoming our best selves, but she's the reason you're here. She's the version of you who learned how to function when things were uncertain, the one who figured out how to keep going when stopping didn't feel like an option. The one who learned very early or very suddenly what was expected and became it. She didn't wait to feel ready. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't pause to check in with herself. She just adapted. And that adaptation wasn't random. It was intelligent. It was protective. It was strategic. She learned when to speak and when to stay quiet, when to be strong, when to be agreeable, and when to carry more than her share. She learned how to be useful, how to be dependable, and how to be impressive enough not to be questioned. And for a long time, that version of you worked. That's the part we forget. She didn't come from dysfunction. She came from effectiveness. She got results. She earned trust. She built stability. She created a life that functioned. And because it worked, you kept reinforcing it. Every time you were praised for being capable, every time you were relied on, every time you were told, I don't know how you do it, that identity solidified. This is who I am. This is what keeps things together. This is how I stay safe. Until one day, it didn't feel like safety anymore. It felt like pressure. And that's usually how this shift begins. Not with collapse, not with crisis, but with a quiet internal resistance. What used to feel motivating starts to feel heavy. What used to feel empowering starts to feel like obligation. You notice you're tired in a way that rest doesn't quite fix. And that can be incredibly confusing because on paper, nothing is wrong. You're still capable, still functioning, still doing what you've always done. So instead of questioning the identity, you question yourself. Why am I struggling with things I used to handle easily? Why does this feel harder now? Why do I feel so resistant? And because most high achieving women have been rewarded for endurance, the instinct is to push, to recommit, to try harder, to discipline your way back into alignment. But what if the problem isn't that you've lost your edge? What if the problem is that you've outgrown the role? Here's something we don't say out loud enough. Identities are tools. They're not moral obligations. They're not lifelong contracts. They're responses to specific conditions. The version of you who learned to be strong may have emerged in a season where strength was required. The version of you who learned to be self reliant may have developed when support wasn't available. The version of you who learned to push through may have formed when stopping wasn't safe. Those identities weren't wrong. They were contextual, but we don't live in static environments. Life changes, you change. Your nervous system changes. And when the context shifts, but the identity doesn't, friction appears. That friction isn't failure, it's feedback. But here's the part most people miss. Letting go of an identity isn't just an internal shift, it's a relational one. Other people know you as the old you. They rely on her. They expect her. They benefit from her predictability. She's the one who doesn't complain, the one who handles it, the one who doesn't make things messy. So when you start to change, it's not just uncomfortable for you, it's destabilizing for the system around you. And that's often where guilt shows up. If I stop being this version of myself, who am I letting down? What happens if I'm not the strong one anymore? Who am I if I don't keep everything running smoothly? That's why so many women cling to identities long after they stop fitting. Not because they don't want to evolve, but because they don't want to disappoint. And yet, staying loyal to an old identity can quietly cost you yourself. It can flatten your emotional range. It can mute your intuition. It can keep you living in a mode that once protected you but now constrains you. And here's the reframe I want to offer today. Outgrowing an identity doesn't mean it was wrong. It means it completed its purpose. Think about how many versions of you have existed already. the one who learned, the one who survived, the one who proved, the one who held everything together. None of them were mistakes, but not all of them are meant to stay. So instead of asking, who do I need to become now? Try asking something much gentler and much more honest. What am I tired of carrying? What expectations am I still meeting out of habit? What roles am I maintaining because they're familiar, not because they're true? What would I stop doing if I trusted that I don't need to earn my place anymore? That question can feel scary because it doesn't come with a clear answer. It comes with space. And space is unfamiliar when your identity has been built around effort. The next version of you doesn't operate the same way. She doesn't thrive on urgency. She doesn't measure her worth by productivity. She doesn't need to be the strongest one in the room to feel safe. She needs discernment. She needs boundaries that aren't justified by burnout. She needs choices that come from truth, not identity maintenance. And yes, that can feel like losing ground because it's quieter, less performative, less externally validated. But quieter doesn't mean smaller, it means more aligned. And alignment changes how effort feels. So here's the experiment I want to leave you with, not a task, not a checklist, just a reflection you can return to. Instead of trying to figure out who you're becoming, take a moment to acknowledge who you've been. Maybe literally say thank you. Thank you for being strong when I needed to be. Thank you for holding things together. Thank you for helping me survive seasons that demanded more than I should have had to give. And then ask, what would it look like to let you rest? Not disappear, not be erased. Just step out of the driver's seat. Because the goal isn't to abandon yourself. It's to stop asking one version of you to carry a life she wasn't designed for. You are allowed to renegotiate the contract. You are allowed to evolve without explaining yourself. You are allowed to honor who you were and choose something different now. That's not betrayal. That's growth with gratitude. And if you're in the in between, no longer who you were, not yet sure who you're becoming, nothing has gone wrong. That space isn't emptiness, it's integration. And it's where the most honest versions of us begin.
Thanks for listening to Experiments in Happiness. You can find more tools and resources at experimentsinhappiness.com.